you guys, my name is Cyan and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I have an exciting video because I'm going to be doing another 24-hour readathon. I try to do these like once a month because I think they're a fun idea, but normally what I do is I split it 12 hours one day and then 12 hours the next, but this time I decided to try and do it for 24 hours consecutively because I've never been able to do this. I don't think. Maybe I did this like once, but I don't know. I just thought it would be a little bit more fun to try and challenge myself and actually see if I can do this. Normally, also when I do the 12 hours one day and the 12 hours the next, I set a stopwatch on my phone and then I stop it whenever I'm not reading. But for today, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to start at 12 p.m. and finish at 12 p.m. And the reason why I'm not like setting a stopwatch again is because the last time I did one of these, literally I was so anal about stopping the stopwatch anytime I wasn't reading that I literally felt a sneeze coming on and paused it. Insanity, if you ask me. So I feel like this will just be more relaxing. I really don't have to worry about that. I was just so meticulous about I'm only going to have this going while I'm reading. I definitely don't have to worry about that at all. I'm literally just gonna read from 12 p.m. today to 12 p.m. tomorrow. If I'm doing something that takes a good deal of time, like if I'm walking my dogs or I'm cooking and eating my meals, and when I go to shower and stuff, I will be listening to an audiobook. That way I'm still reading throughout the 24 hours. So that is what we're doing today, and I'm just totally gonna be mood reading. I do have my first book picked out though, and that is Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. I don't know, I just feel like a good romance is something that I need right now, and apparently this one is supposed to be a little bit more of an emotional romance, but it's also basketball, I believe. Well, yeah, Long Shot, a hoops novella. Yeah, that would most likely be basketball. This is what we're gonna start off with, and yeah, I really know nothing about it besides that it's basketball and it's supposed to be emotional, so we will see. It's only been like maybe a little over an hour, but I'm only on page 88. Yeah, I just felt the need to go ahead and update you guys because there's just one scene in particular that I have to talk about. So first off, in this book we are following Iris and August. Iris and August both meet at like a bar one night and they really hit it off, but as it turns out, she has a boyfriend. And that takes place like their senior year of college, towards the end of it. So he is a highly sought after basketball player, and he's also wondering about where he's gonna go and how he's gonna move on with his career after that. And now it's like a year later and they're meeting again, and you can tell that even though like nothing happened that night with them at the bar, they just kind of hit it off, but they couldn't get together because she had a boyfriend. That night at the bar has just like stuck in their heads every time they see each other. And my thing is, Iris has a boyfriend, so I'm really hoping there's not going to be a cheating trope involved. I haven't even read the back of the book, so like I don't know what's gonna happen there, but I do not like cheating tropes. Also, so far I don't really like her boyfriend, but she doesn't even like him, so she should have dumped him a long time ago. But then there is the accidental pregnancy trope, so I guess that's why she's still with him. Anyways, yeah, so she got pregnant, it's years later, they're seeing each other again for the first time, and this man literally walks in on her breastfeeding her child, and he says that immediately his first thought was, must suck. Like, so he walks in on Iris breastfeeding and he says, a milky drop clings to the tip. I can't swallow or breathe, but my mouth automatically opens, my body demanding I suck. I'm sorry. Ew. To me, that is so disgusting to sexualize something like that. Although, one time I saw this episode of My Strange Addiction and this man was addicted to drinking his wife's breast milk, which, like, I guess there could be worse things, but, like, he would get jealous when his children had to breastfeed, you know? Like, that's weird. Anyways, side note, my brain sometimes will cling to these itty bitty small details and it will instantly make me not like the characters. And even though I tend to forget a lot, it's like those small details that bother me, I will remember forever. That is something that anytime someone brings up this book, I will now remember that forever. But anyways, I just need to talk about that. It's not a spoiler, it's just one sentence, but I'm hoping the rest of the book doesn't feel like that because that's not a cute romance, okay? Not at all. But anyways, let's just keep reading. now 3:25 and I have made it to page 264, so we've been reading for 3.5 hours, and oh my goodness, I'm like 75% of the way through, maybe. Actually, how many pages is this? Okay, it's like 450 something, so I'm actually only like halfway through, but I just need to apologize for everything that I said earlier because I felt like her boyfriend wasn't that bad. Now I absolutely hate him. I honestly do not care what Iris does as long as she gets away from him. She could cheat on this man, she could murder this man. I do not care about him whatsoever. But the only thing I can say is that I don't feel the romance necessarily. I do still really like this book a lot, but I think that it is more of Iris's story because she is in an abusive relationship. So obviously that is a very big trigger warning for domestic violence. I would also say there's a trigger warning briefly for postpartum depression because, like I said, she does end up having an accidental pregnancy. There's a little bit of that representation as well and what it is like for her to go through that and the mental health aspect of it all. And in this book, you're really seeing the domestic violence. It's not just kind of something that happens, like you're in it and you're seeing everything that goes on with her relationship. And so it is definitely a little bit difficult to read, but I think it is such a beautiful story. It's Iris's story. It's mostly her point of view. We're getting everything that she has been through, and I'm assuming where I left off at this part, she did finally escape her abusive relationship, that we're going to see more of her growth and how that affected her afterwards as well. But for the romance side of things, I don't really feel it. Like, they haven't had that many interactions with one another, and they're still clinging kind of to this one night that they had at that bar many years ago now. And I just don't understand how you feel that way after one night with someone and why you're still clinging to that, because it feels like they don't even really necessarily know each other that well. But obviously that could change. I'm excited to keep reading. I'm really enjoying it so far, which sounds crazy to think about when you're reading a book with the topic of domestic violence in it, but I just enjoy those like really real stories. And also I had to take a family violence class in college for my degree, and that was one of my favorite classes to learn about. So I think like it's not a topic for everyone, but for me, I do like to read it because I understand a lot more of it, and I think she does a great representation so far of the age-old question of why do they stay. It's a lot to get into. Not a fluffy basketball sports romance at all. So just be prepared. When people say that it's more emotional, they're not joking. So yeah, not necessarily because of the emotional connection that the two have, but it's emotional as a reader, you know? Anyways, I'm gonna keep reading now, and I'll get back to you when I'm done. Okay, so I have officially finished Longshot. It is 7:07, so it took me around 7 hours or so to read, and this was really good. I really enjoyed this story, but like I said, it is a topic that I personally love to read about. Even if it's not real, I love how realistic it felt, and the fact that this is probably very close to someone's story out there, probably unfortunately multiple people's. And whenever stories like this are told and you just think like this has happened to people before, it makes it hit so much more different than stories where they're completely made up, like fantasies. You know what I mean? Like it hits different every time, and I really think that this is a beautiful, well-written story. I think though, don't go into it expecting too much from the romance. I personally still towards the end didn't 100% feel the connection between the two. I really honestly can't even pinpoint what it was, so I don't know what to tell you. It's not that I wasn't rooting for them, it's just that I didn't feel much of a connection. And like I said earlier, it's mostly her story, so like there still weren't that many many interactions with the two of them. And yeah, I don't know. Talking about books is hard. I would say definitely go into this if you want a beautiful story with all of the things that I've told you about this book already. But if you're looking for a romance, this is not really it in my opinion. Others may feel different about it, but I just didn't 100% feel the romance between the two. Yet I still really, really love this book, and it's one that I am going to think about all the time. However, when I do think about it and I think about the romance, I'm still going to think about the breastfeeding incident. So there's that, but I am gonna give it, I would say like 4.5 stars. It was good. It was really good, and I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I am going to continue with the series, although I do think they are all going to be similar and emotional. So it is one of those where I have to be in the mood to be a little bit sad and read stuff that is super emotional before I pick up the second one. And I do have to say, besides just the story, I do like the way that Kennedy Ryan writes her books. That is something I've never really paid attention to in the past, but now I can just feel not necessarily the story, but the way that authors write is so different, and their styles, hers, I enjoy. So there's that one. But now we are going to move on to our second book, and I do kind of want to read like a fantasy, but I am in the middle of so many fantasy series, and a lot of the physical books on my TBR are the first books of fantasy series, so I decided I wanted to read a standalone, and the one that I decided on was Masters of Death by Olivia Blake. I did read the Atlas 6, and unpopular opinion, but I did love that book. I also did read One for My Enemies, and I liked it, didn't love it, but the only reason why I really didn't love that one is just because there were so many characters that I got confused. But this one seems like it's going to be very interesting. It says a ghost infestation. There you go. A vampire that is a real estate agent, and what else? I just saw it. A medium. That seems quite interesting, and I'm like 100% sure that this is a standalone, so we will see. I also want to give her another shot because I feel like the Atlas 6 wasn't for me. One for My Enemies was okay, but people tend to love her writing. I want to see if maybe this is better, and maybe I could start to love her writing too. Or maybe I'm just too dumb, because the way she writes, you do have to think a little bit more, in my opinion, from what I've read from her. Like, you have to use your brain a little bit more when you're reading her writing. So we'll see if maybe it's just Olivia Blake and I aren't compatible because I'm not smart enough. So let's do it. So I'm literally only like maybe 25% of the way through this book, but I still just wanted to update you guys because so far I am really loving this book. So in this book, there are like two groups of people, and I know I'm literally currently reading it, but I already can't tell you their names. So the first three, I know we have a vampire, Viola, a ghost, Tom, and a demon. I can't remember her name, but all three of them are kind of like not necessarily friends, but acquaintances. I would personally say that they're friends who bicker and don't necessarily get along, and they're always going like back and forth with one another, but like they're still friends. That's those three. And then we have another group, Fox, who is a medium. And then we have Cal, who is a reaper. And oh my gosh, what is her name? I can't remember the other girl's name, but she is an angel. So like you have these different groups of so many type of supernatural beings. We start off in the story as Viola the vampire. She wants to get rid of the ghost Tom because he's haunting this house, and she is a real estate agent, so she's trying to sell it, but he's haunting it. So she wants help from the medium and all of his friends in order to figure out what happened to Tom, why can't he move on to the next afterlife, and everything like that. So now all 6 of them are going to begrudgingly work together, but then there's another character who gets brought in. His name is Brant. I'm reading it as Brant, but it's B-R-A-N-D-T. Brandt. The D's silent, right? It's Brant. Anyways, he has just been introduced. I don't know anything about him or what his whole shtick is or anything like that, but he actually knows Fox, the medium, and Fox isn't technically a real medium. He is Death's grandson. No, godson. Where I literally just left off, Death's gone. So like what do you mean? I'm intrigued to see where this could go because that's literally the first 25% is getting introduced to all the characters, their backgrounds, their stories, and I'm really enjoying it. Mostly like the friendly bickering between one another. They all have the greatest smart ass remarks and I just love it. So yeah, so far it's going really good. A whole lot better than I could have ever imagined, which honestly is sounds awful to say. I didn't have the highest expectations going into this. Now it's good. It's really good. I'm gonna try to not be super loud because now it is 2:08 in the morning and I finally finished Masters of Death. I really cannot even explain what the heck happened in this book at all. The original plot about the vampire trying to get rid of this ghost and all six of these supernatural creatures coming together to help out, that completely went out the window. All of a sudden, there is like a game that they had to play because Death is missing, and they had to play this game in order to find him because there was the king of the demons who wanted to take over Death's role, and if he did that, then all of humanity would be in ruins. And then we got to the part where they actually started playing the game, and that was the most confusing thing I have ever read. Not confusing in like what they were saying and what was happening and everything, but I was confused on how is this a game, and I could not tell who was winning until they said who won because there's like different rounds. You have to beat multiple people. Yeah, I don't know how I feel. I do know that I was so excited in the beginning. As you guys saw, I really loved all of the characters. It does have great characters in here, and I like that there were just so many different kinds of characters and all of their personalities. Like I mentioned, their banter was top notch. And at the very end, everyone got a happy ending. Everyone had like their own little romance going on, which definitely don't cling to that because the romance is just like a very little bit at the very end. I love the relationship and the dynamics between the characters. It's just I don't know what happened towards the end, and I literally went on my phone and I was looking up other reviews of it and everything, and it's basically like no one knows. No one has been able to describe what the heck happened in this book, so it's not just me. But yeah, I think towards like the middle to the end, it kind of started slowing down. I was getting a little bit bored, mostly because of how confusing it was, and also I didn't really care about two certain characters and their backstory, but from the middle to the end, they kind of became the main characters, so you were learning a lot of their backstories. But yeah, that's like all I can really say about this one, so I think I'm gonna give it like a 3-star. I'm just so upset that the beginning was going so good and then it went downhill for me, but it's still not bad. Oh, also, I didn't say this, but I did listen to the audiobook and I like ate dinner and stuff earlier. Obviously, it's 2 a.m. I had to eat throughout the day. I just didn't show any of that, but the audiobook was really good too. The narrator for this one did a great job, I personally think, at like all the different voices because there's a lot of characters. There were 7 that we talked about earlier, but then there was also like 2 archangels, the king of hell, and this other girl character that has something to do with Thomas and his past. There's so much going on. So yeah, the audiobook was great, but for me it's just a 3-star. But now I am getting a little bit sleepy. Well, I've been sleepy if I'm being honest. I normally am definitely a 9 p.m. go to bed girly, okay? I love taking a shower and laying in bed with my book. Like, it's just nothing compares. So that's what I'm used to, and now I'm getting sleepy, but I think what may help is I just also feel kind of gross, so I want to take a shower and get ready, and maybe that will kind of wake me up a little bit. So I'm gonna do that while listening to an audiobook, and I actually have the And I actually have the audiobook for King of Wrath by Anna Huang. This is the first book in the Kings of Sin series. I read the Twisted series a while ago. It was one of the first like romance smutty series I ever read once I got back into reading as an adult. But I do feel like people tend to also like this one. And I liked the Twisted series, so yeah, honestly, I don't know. I just feel like it's going to be easy to listen to an audiobook like this, whereas when I was listening to Masters of Death, I did have to like really pay attention, but with a romance, it can go on in the background, you can do other things, and I feel like you don't get confused or anything. So I'm gonna start this, shower, get ready for the day, and we'll see how it goes from here. So yeah. Wish me luck. Hello, I'm back. I feel like a new woman. Actually, you know what? I don't know why I felt the need to lie to you guys. I feel miserable. I feel better. What is the word when you like shower? I feel better hygiene wise, but mentally I'm not okay. Everything's starting to look a little bit blurry. I'm tired, and like when people say that their head feels foggy, I never really understood it until now. My head feels foggy. I don't even know what that really means, but it's foggying right now. Anyways, it is now 3:32. Like I said, I listened to the audiobook for King of Wrath as I was showering and getting ready and everything. And first off, let me just say the audiobook narrators for this one, it felt like they were talking so slow. I literally had it on 2-point speed and it still felt a little bit too slow. So even though I listened to it for a while, I only got to page 64, chapter 8. For the audiobook, like, I get it. It's a little bit dramatized, but literally, let me just give you an example, okay? She said, despite what Vivian thought, I'd scheduled my Europe trip before she moved in. That's what it felt like. Literally about to go crazy listening to it. So I'm now gonna sit down and just read the physical copy, which wasn't my plan anyways, yes, but still don't recommend the audiobook unless you want to put it on like 3 times speed. It was no hate to the narrators or anything, but goodness gracious, I was getting annoyed. But anyways, enough of a tangent on that one. In this book, we are following Dante and Vivian. Dante is like a ruthless, mean mafia leader guy. He is ruthless, mean, everybody knows who he is, yada yada yada. Vivian is the daughter of a family that comes from new money, so they are not as easily accepted into that world of like upper class people. So in order to kind of integrate themselves into it, they blackmail Dante and get him to marry their daughter, which is not good. Vivian doesn't know that Dante was blackmailed and that's why they're getting married. She knows it is an arranged marriage, but she doesn't know the reason behind it. However, Dante's true intentions are to just go along with this until he can get the stuff that her family is blackmailing him with erased, like, you know, get rid of it, and then he plans on breaking off their engagement and like never even actually marrying her. As these stories typically go though, I'm sure that everything's gonna change. They're gonna end up falling for one another. There's probably gonna be a conflict where she finds out why he was gonna marry her, and they're gonna have like a third act breakup, and then everything's gonna be happy dory. That's probably what's gonna happen in this book. But honestly, I'm so sleepy that like I'm down to read it because I don't want anything that's going to require a lot of thinking. So let's do it. Okay, so I was literally turning on the camera to film an update for you guys. Do you see this? We have a problem with mosquitoes getting into our house because we open up the back door, let the dogs out, in and out like multiple times throughout the day. We do have like bug catchers and stuff, like the little blue light bug trap thing, but we still get mosquitoes in here every once in a while, and I am pretty sure one just bit me on my freaking forehead, and I was trying not to mess up my makeup, so I was literally doing this to scratch it. But you can see it. You can literally, right? Or am I imagining this? Am I so tired I'm imagining that you can tell? But I feel like you can tell. I got bit by a damn mosquito on my forehead out of all the places. Oh, that mosquito better hope I don't catch it, because when I do, it's on sight. moving forward, I'm halfway through King of Wrath, and you know what? I was a little skeptical because I feel like sometimes these mafia romances, is this even mafia or is it just billionaire? I'm literally so dumb. He owns like a jewelry company and he's a CEO billionaire. Why do I always think when people are rich that it's because they're part of the mafia? Anyways, I was skeptical, but I'm actually kind of enjoying these characters. Dante is a grumpy character, but I like that Vivian isn't necessarily a sunshine character at all. Like, she's just kind of normal. There's nothing too special about her, which sounds mean, but like, I don't hate her character. Like, sometimes when you read books, the characters are just kind of bleh, or they have certain tropes like the sunshine, the sarcastic character. Vivian can give it back to Dante, the sarcasm and everything, but it's not like her main personality trait. I don't even know how to describe her. She is not bland, but she's not anything else either. Does anyone know what I'm talking about? Probably not, but I don't mind our characters. I actually really like them. However, what does get a little bit annoying is the whole, this is just an arranged marriage, but they view it as like a business deal, and there's always that back and forth between like them being attracted to each other and all of this, but then they're like, it's a business deal, remember, it's just a business deal, which personally gets annoying when it is constantly brought up to me. I will say it's not bad so far. I'm not loving it. It is fast paced, very easy to read, and none of our characters are annoying, but like, it's not outstanding, you know? To any other booktubers out there, or just anyone in general, when people ask you about books, why is it literally so hard to talk about books? Even when you just read it. Why? Okay, anyways, I'm about to keep scratching my freaking forehead and keep reading. So, let's finish this up. Oh my god, it's really itchy, you guys. You know what is absolutely perfect? The fact that my mosquito bite literally calmed down, but then I started thinking about it and then it started to get itchy, so then I started scratching it because I couldn't stop thinking about it. Also, it's 7:08 in the morning, so I might just be a little bit delusional there, but I did finally finish King of Wrath. And earlier, you know, I was saying that our characters aren't anything great, but I liked them. Now I think I actually kind of really like our characters. Well, not really. Honestly, are these gonna be characters that I think about for a very long time? Probably not. But I do just think that they progressed and got a little bit better. Of course, there was still that tension between them, and then all of a sudden, after they normally did something sexual, it would switch and Dante would be like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. I'm just gonna go cold because this is supposed to just be a business arrangement. And honestly, that would really piss me off if it was real life, because I mean, how does it not make you feel bad when someone does that right after sex? Like, yeah, that would make me not feel too great. So I didn't love that, but I did love some of our normal tropes. Like, of course, there was the jealousy trope. We did meet Kai in here again, which I believe we met Kai in the Twisted series, maybe? He just seems familiar. Maybe he's just a basic book character and that's why he seems familiar, but I feel like we definitely met him before. Actually, did we? Honestly, I don't know, but I liked Kai's character. I liked that him and Vivian would oftentimes like talk to one another and it would be playful, and like, you know that they don't actually like each other, like they're not genuinely flirting, they're just doing it to piss off Dante, which I kind of like. We saw the jealous side of Dante. We also see both Dante and Vivian stand up to her family. A little micro trope that I do typically love is when someone's family is really just not great to them and they finally grow a pair and stand up to their own family, or when their spouse stands up to their family. Both of them stood up in here. I like the fact that Vivian, yeah, she comes from her family's money and everything like that, but she also has her own money. She literally says in here, I think that she invests in stock and stuff like that. So a girl is smart, okay? She's not just like her daddy's princess that's spending all his money. No, I did like that about Vivian. And at the end though, you know, there's a part of me that is torn because they have a third act conflict, they break up, and of course, like, Vivian is kind of making him work for it. He has to gain her trust back, and like, I understand that, but I would fold so quickly the way that these men in these books go out of their way to win these women back. A piece of me was like, girl, just forgive him already, okay? Just do it and get this over with. Why are we dragging this out? Because we all know it's gonna happen eventually. If you read the first book, Twisted Love, I believe, there's also like that kind of situation where they have a breakup and then he really has to work for it. But dear God, the way that he fixes it in Twisted Love was so cringe. So I'm glad that we didn't see that in here. I do also think at the same time, while this book did get better from, you know, me reading the first half, I do think it was predictable. It's things that I have definitely seen before. I'm still very confused on if Dante is part of the mafia. I'm pretty sure that both of their family are just in the jewelry business, but like, he has mafia ties, maybe? Obviously he works with some shady people, knows some shady people. There's the whole blackmail situation going on in here too, so like, what's up with him, you know? I don't really know. But anyways, as I was saying, predictable, have seen some of the things that have happened in here before. Our characters aren't any that I'm going to think about in the long run. I also did like seeing some of the characters from the Twisted series in this book, but it still wasn't outstanding, so I think I'm gonna settle on like a 3.5. It was still good. I didn't hate it. Not one of my all-time favorite romances, so that is that one, but it is currently 7:13. So it's time to get reading our probably final book. Yeah, I have like less than 5 hours left. I am gonna pick up a fantasy book. I'm super excited for this because I think this is a dark fantasy romance, and one of my favorite TikTokers that I love to get recommendations from is obsessed with this book. So I just really want to start it, and that book is Reign of Shadows and Endings by Melissa K. Let's try to sound this out. Roerich? Anyways, Melissa wrote this, and it's the first of the Legacy series. It's a thick one, so I'm definitely not gonna finish it today, but seems interesting. Don't even know what it's about. All I know is that it's a dark romance. No, it's a dark fantasy romance, and I love fantasy romance. This one's gonna be darker, so who knows, maybe it'll be a little bit smuttier. I really don't know what to expect, but here we go. So I am loving this book. It's literally only 9:43 and I'm already on like over page 200. This book just reads so quick and easy. So let me explain to you what it's about. In this world, there are the Fae and then there are the Legacies. The Legacies are like higher up, and there are 6 kingdoms. Each of them has an heir to the kingdom, and there's what is also called a selection. So when the heirs reach appropriate ages, they go and select a fae who will be their source. Now, their source is someone whose magic the legacies basically feed off. So the legacies feed off of the fae's magic in order to become stronger. And when they have selected their source, they also end up being bonded to them. And that's what we're following along. Tessa, she has always avoided the selection because she's kind of like a bad fae. Like, she didn't follow the rules growing up and everything like that. So she was never like primed and taught to be an appropriate source or anything like that. but during this selection, Theon, and he is called the heir of endings. So like their kingdom is kind of not that well known about. Not everyone knows what goes on in that kingdom, but it seems to me like it's kind of like a darker kingdom. But she gets chosen by Theon. Now she has to be a source, and she is basically like taken along with him, kind of held a prisoner against her will to be his source and to bond to him. And it's just a wild ride so far. Honestly, like I get it because Tessa is taken from her life and all of her friends, and now she is forced to be whatever he wants her to be, basically, to follow his rules and to stay by his side and to just be a subservient girl. And so she doesn't want that. Like she's fighting against it, does not want to spend time with him. But to be honest, when he took her in, he was so nice to her, and that is why I can't be the main character in a fantasy book, because they always fight back. I literally would have folded for this man so quickly. I would have been like, yes sir, what do you need me to do? You're being so nice to me. But at the same time, I don't like some of the things that he says, like the rules that he gives her. For example, he always picks out what she wears. Don't love that. And what she eats, also absolutely despise that. And another thing is that like he really wants to bond to her and for them to have this great connection, because most of the time sources and the legacies do have a great connection, but he also gets to have a wife. He doesn't have one yet, but like basically they get to have their cake and eat it too. But yeah, anyways, I'm gonna keep reading because I feel like I just got a second wind and I'm ready to go. Those are my thoughts so far though, so let's keep going. Hi everyone, so you can't tell, but it is actually a good while later. It is 4:14 p.m. and the reason why is because I'm a little bit psychotic, so I could not just end this video without finishing the final book. So what I did was I did finish the 24 hours consecutively, had a little nap, I literally fell asleep for like 2 hours, and then I woke up and finished this book. I do want to say that people said this was a dark fantasy romance, and of course we do have some dark elements, like the fact that, you know, she's kind of being held captive against her will to be a source. The things that Theon says and does is all he's ever really known sources to be, so he expects a lot from her. He is very controlling and stuff, but it just didn't feel very dark for me, so I personally liked that. However, I did end up reading the author's note after I actually read the book, so it does make a lot more sense. Like the dark that it is referring to is the fact that there are themes of severe depression, anxiety, threats of SA, not between the female main character and the male main character. So that I really liked, because I can't love a male main character who threats SA, and physical abuse both on page and memories, once again not between the two main characters, and just stuff like that. So I guess where that comes into play is in the flashback. So, you know, there are some dark romances where the things that the male love interest does to the female love interest is very dark, and sometimes for certain people you might be like, ew, like I cannot with that. But in this book it's not them with each other, it is mostly their past experiences. Does this make sense? So that I do like a lot, and like I mentioned, I know everyone's gonna be different, but the things that he would make her do is kind of abusive, like the fact that he controlled what she wore, what she ate, she wasn't allowed to go on a run without him, stuff like that, you know, which is dark, but like I've read worse. I'm just saying. Also, this book isn't very smutty at all. There's like 1 or 2 scenes in there, which personally I could give or take smut, so it didn't bother me at all. Just want to let you know, if you're expecting a very smutty one, it's not this one at all. He is someone who has shadow magic, but yeah, for me it fell a little bit flat, just because I feel like we were kind of constantly back and forth forth, just her fighting against this bond and them arguing and bickering and everything like that. And I get why the author did that. Like, it is definitely more of a character driven book. There's not a whole lot going on, but it just felt a little bit repetitive. I will say though, I do love some of our characters. There's Axel and Luca. If you've read this book, I love both of them so much for different reasons. Axel is Theon's brother, and I just get these golden retriever vibes from him that I absolutely adored. But like I said, felt a little bit slow at parts. I was getting a little bit bored with the repetitiveness of it. But if you like the character driven books, where this one does kind of dive deep into her mental state throughout all of this, like at one point she literally has a mental break because of how her life has dramatically changed overnight. So if you like reading about that kind of stuff, you will like this. I do like reading about that, but not necessarily in a fantasy, so that's why it's not my absolute favorite, but it was still really good. And I do think I will potentially read the rest of the series. I think only the second one is out so far, but for me this one is sitting at like a 3.5. So that was that one. But now let's do a little roundup of all the books that we read in today's video. So I have them like scattered throughout my living room. Let me get them. First off, we have Long Shot by Kennedy Ryan. Absolutely perfect story. Chef's kiss, gave it 4.5. Don't go into it expecting a lovey-dovey fluffy romance. It's definitely not what it is, but if you do want to read a beautiful story about a domestic violence survivor, I think this is a great pick. Like I said, 4.5. Then I read Masters of Death. Loved the beginning of this book, but the middle to end, they just completely lost me. So, a little bit let down, 3 stars. Then we have King of Wrath. I did like this book, but it's nothing special. Definitely have seen the tropes and the storyline. It felt predictable. I liked our characters, but they're not characters that I'm going to have on my frontal for the rest of my life. So, okay, again, did I give this a 3 or 3.5? I really can't remember, but it's like, let me say 3.25. Yeah. And then I read Reign of Shadows and Endings. This one, 3.5. I literally just talked about it, so I'm not going to do it again. But those are all of the books that I read for a little over 24 hours. So that's it for today's video. I hope that you guys enjoyed it. Let me know your thoughts and opinions if you have read any of these books. Give me recommendations if you have any. And yeah, that is it. I hope you all have a great reading week and just a great week overall. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!